So, let's see. YouTube is sending. Okay, everybody seems to be sending now. So, yes. So anyway, that's basically what's going on here. Let's see if this come on. There we go. Yep. All right. So it looks like things are, I've got things kind of working again. So here we go. Yeah, I know I don't need YouTube. So, I've actually been considering YouTube and Facebook. I've been trying to consider which way to go with that. And anyway, I'm just not quite sure. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to continue to utilize Facebook and YouTube or not. So, anyway, all right, there we go. Now I'm back in the saddle all over the place, all over. All right, so let's go ahead and get things kicked off. Tonight, we have for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. You know what? I already just forgot. Give me just a second. Let me look up the pledge. Who's the pledge? Who is the pledge? Somebody tell me who the pledge. Oh yeah. I don't know why I forgot this. Boy. Well, folks, it is one of our folks that is unfortunately passed. Tonight's headline, or tonight's Pledge of Allegiance, is going to be done by none other than Fat Paws. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one, like me. Well, thank you, my unofficial producer, Nana. You should have hit me up with that earlier. Anyway, tonight is Fat Paws. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one, like me. Follow along with Fat Paws as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And may that man rest in peace. I got to tell you, I love his rendition of the pledge, because he does it so forceful at certain times. And, I think people don't seem to understand that there is times where you need to be forceful with things like that. All right. Yeah, I know. We all miss him. Bonnie. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get to tonight's headline sponsor, which is, as soon as I can pop it up here, because apparently I'm discombobulated, even though I tried not to be discombobulated. I tried not to be, and here I am. I'm discombobulated. Anyway, all righty, there it is. The Institute on the Constitution. And when you go to the Institute on the Constitution, which, by the way, you get there by going to theamericanview.com. That's theamericanview.com. Head on over to that website and get involved with their 3-step plan to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education from a biblical worldview. That's what it is. And you can start by pray. That's right. Start by praying. And then once you, there's a spot where you can sign up on their webpage, and they will send you daily prayers so you can pray with them. So that's your first step, obviously, is to pray. Your second step is to study. Now, what are you supposed to study? Well, you study the Constitution. You study history. You study our founding documents and things like that. And you can start by going to their U.S. Constitution course. They're free U.S. Constitution course, and you can see it right here above my head. Their free U.S. Constitution course. And put in your name, first name, last name, enter your email address, and you will be sent the 100% free online courses, 12 lessons directly to your email box automatically every single week. And each one is about 15, 20 minutes long, videos and accompanying things. And you can go and check them all out by starting off their 100% free online course. And then, of course, you continue with the study aspect by going and attending one of their live courses, that they have all over. Where do you find those? Well, you just scroll down on the study page and you'll find all of that information, where they're going to be, their dates, etc. You go through and you just look, you scroll through and you can find them. The Truth About America's Founding, the U.S. Constitution course, just all kinds of stuff. And they have state constitution courses too. And you can go and check all of those out. You register for those. All across the country. They're everywhere. And then after you do that, which, by the way, studying is part of the ACT portion of their plan, but you can also act further by not only becoming a member, but also becoming an instructor. That's right. You can become an instructor for the Institute on the Constitution and help them continue their mission for grassroots learning across the country about this. They have different instructor levels, and you can go to the ACT portion of theamericanview.com, and you can learn about how to become an instructor by watching this video. I'm flashing it on the screen right now. You can watch that video and learn how to become an instructor. They offer their instructor kits, which are right there, and the instructor kits can also be purchased in their shop, which is a red button right up on the upper right-hand corner. You can take a look at their shop. They've got all kinds of different stuff. You can see it all right up there, but my personal favorite is right above my head. That is the Legacy Library. The Legacy Library is filled with all kinds of leather stuff. Yeah. Yes, I am into leather, Mrs. Whiskey. Anyway, and my personal favorite is the Leather Constitution book. That's this book right here in my hot little hands. That is the Rounded Corner, and it is a sexy rounded corner book. And according to my Whiskey Warrior P1s, the purchase of the Saddleback leather rounded cornered book will discombobulate a liberal, for sure. Take a look at this thing. It's got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. No cheap glue here, folks. This is stitched all the way through, the leather and the pages contained within. The stitching has been endorsed by Lewis and Clark for tent security, later adopted by the explorers to survive on the Oregon Trail, according to my Whiskey Warrior G. Anyway, it's got a 100-year warranty against materials and manufacturing defects, such that if you have a problem, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It is buddy tested, buddy approved, Fat Paws approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved. And my youngest Whiskey Warrior has confirmed that the information contained within this book will help you to study and achieve your civics badge in Scouts. It will also help you achieve your civics exam, if they still have them, as well as your naturalization test. It's got a lot of places and applicability for that you can use all of this. Applicability. I want to see. Yeah, there you go. Finally get the closed captioning caught up. Anyway, yeah, you just head on over to theamericanview.com, head into their shop and grab yours today. And there you go. Go and check them out. Check out all of their stuff. They've got all kinds of fantastic stuff over there. And I, of course, appreciate them for being a sponsor of the show. All right. Well, folks, every once in a while, Trump does something that, many people are going to be divided upon. I mean, it's even more so than just like the Democrat versus Republican dividing. I mean, I'm talking like regular average people will divide over it. Now, one of the things that I need to make clear to you is that I did not vote for Trump because of his ability to speak smooth. I did not vote for Trump because he did not come with a bunch of baggage. I did not vote for Trump because he tends to, say off-the-cuff remarks, or that he doesn't say off-the-cuff remarks. I'm just going to tell you, every once in a while, though, I got to be honest, every once in a while he does do something that's a little cringy, in my view. Now, all of that being said, am I being negative about Trump and his abilities? No, I'm not. I'm not being negative about Trump and his abilities. I just think that there are times, and this, believe it or not, this actually applies to all kinds of New Yorkers. And you can ask my buddy Steven Stiles, because we have conversations about this all the time. New Yorkers, for whatever reason, if you ask them a question, or they're just very open, honest, matter of fact, tell you what they think kind of people. There's really not necessarily, I don't want to call it like a filter per se, but that's sort of what it is there's really not much of a filter. I mean, they're going to tell you what they think, bar none. Whether you like it or not, they're going to tell you. But unfortunately, being a politician, sometimes that can get you into trouble. And to be honest with you, this, unfortunately, in my view, was one of those times. So Trump is meeting with the Japanese, I'm not sure if this is the prime minister. Yeah, the Japanese prime minister was visiting the White House. And, let's just say that Trump probably could have left without this particular joke. Let's take a listen.
And we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right? He's asking me. Now, you believe in surprise, I think, much more so than us. And we had to surprise him, and we did. And because of that surprise, we knocked out, the first 2 days, we probably knocked out 50% of what and much more than we anticipated doing.
Okay.
We went in very hard, and we didn't.
Okay, so I got to make this kind of clear. So for those of you on the audio portion of the program, this is Trump sitting in the White House. He's got the Japanese prime minister sitting right next to him. And let's just say the question that was asked, and by the way, it was asked by a Japanese reporter in terms of why didn't you let people know, in particular the Japanese, why didn't you let people know that you were going to attack Iran? And so, Trump trying to be Trump, trying to lighten the mood, trying to be the way that he is, he basically said what he said. Unfortunately, it didn't go over very well. And there's a part in the video where they kind of zoom in on her face, and trust me, the Japanese are the type of people where showing their emotions, they're not necessarily they don't all like show their emotions on their faces about stuff. And there's often times where in the Asian cultures as a whole, they view Americans as very uncouth, unkempt, we're barbarians in their minds. And unfortunately, I mean, Trump sort of stepped in it with this. And look, you can sit here and argue all you want about, hey, it was funny, so on and so forth. But let me ask you this question. And this is just being serious here. Let me ask you this question. If somebody were to come to America, or if Donald Trump were to visit another country, okay? If Donald Trump were to visit another country, do you think it would be okay for that other country to call out things like our oppression of black slaves in America? Do you think that if the Jewish people, like, Bibi, Benjamin Netanyahu, coming over visiting Germany, do you think it would be appropriate for him to make a statement about the Holocaust? Again, when you frame it in a specific manner, you can look at it and it was, again, it was meant to be a joke. Okay. It was meant to be a joke. But the fact of the matter is that there are certain things in history that they don't necessarily have to keep being repeated over and over and over again. Yes, they were horrific events. They happened. I get it. But when you're dealing with, and especially in this particular case, because let's be honest, Trump is attempting to try and gain their support in terms of the Strait of Hormuz, okay, and defending ships going through the Strait of Hormuz. You don't necessarily go and do like a backhanded insult to somebody that you're basically asking, hey, you guys need to help out here. And I'm just saying, I mean, again, I think it was, you're going to have some people, and I already know because I see it in the chat, you're already going to have some people who are like, oh, this is just perfect because this was perfect. This was a jab back at them and so on and so forth. Look, okay, you could sit here and talk about that all day long. And yes, we did go in afterward. We destroyed 2 of their cities with our, overwhelming firepower at the time, the bombs in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So, I mean, I just, again, I think some things, especially in certain circumstances, this isn't exactly like the best place. And you could kind of tell by the nervous laughter in the room, maybe it wasn't the best choice. That's all I'm simply saying. And unfortunately, it's things like that sort of add fuel to the fire for people who are Democrats, okay, who sit there and say that this guy really shouldn't be president, that he shows all kinds of problems and things of that nature. It just helps. It just throws a little extra kindling on the fire. And I just yeah, it's just something I personally don't think it should have been said. Honesty or anything else left alone, it shouldn't have been said. When the guy said that Trump should have just basically said, look, we didn't tell you because we didn't want anybody to know, period. We wanted the element of surprise. That was the main thing. And he even actually mentioned it after he made the joke. You could have dropped the joke and just said, we wanted the element of surprise. That's the answer. So anyway. All right. Now, speaking of the Strait of Hormuz, Iran's, I don't know, this is the foreign minister guy. He's at the United Nations, or the picture shows that he's in the United Nations. And he's sitting here and he's basically saying, hey, you know what? We need a Hormuz transit regime after all of this is done. We need a Hormuz transit regime. And what he's basically saying is he doesn't want the U.S. to be in charge of that area. Yeah. Anyway, he said this, yesterday, that a new international mechanism should be created in order to govern transit through the Strait of Hormuz once the current conflict ends. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, don't believe this guy at all. They want control of that area. They're going to have control for that. Okay. They want control. They know this. And this guy is basically pretty much he's lying out of his butt. Okay. And so toward that end, of course, and don't get me wrong, I mean, the whole thing with Japan didn't really dissuade the Japanese from jumping in, because apparently after the, I don't know if we'll necessarily call it a shellacking or whatever, but basically after calling out the European countries and Japan, because they use that, a lot of their oil comes through that particular area, the Strait of Hormuz. Trump has now wrangled them to be able they have now decided that, hey, we're going to help you guys secure the strait and stabilize energy markets. So they condemn the attacks. And these are European countries. The countries that are involved here: Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, and Japan, all stated today that they are prepared to help ensure safe passage through the strait, which obviously is a key oil shipping lane that was been blocked by Iran. So, yeah, it is just what it is, and I'm kind of glad in a way that they are at least joining in, although it's pretty sad that they had to get essentially berated by Trump for doing this. They should have just jumped on board anyway. I mean, the thing about it is that a lot of people don't seem to understand is that when you stabilize a unstable region like this, it benefits everybody. It doesn't just benefit America. I mean, to be honest with you, we don't even, outside of the fact that Iran was in a 47-year war with us and was killing, American soldiers over there. Outside of that, the strait and the oil that was coming out of there, I mean, it does affect us, but it affects the world even more. We could go on, because we have enough in terms of our reserves. We should be able to go on. But, yeah, it's just one of those things that, well, you guys should have been a little quicker than this. Unfortunately, it did take them a while to get up. And when they finally did, they're all saying, of course, they said disruption to global energy supplies poses a threat to international peace and security, and that freedom of navigation must be upheld under international law. So, I mean, at least they're stepping up now. So that's the thing. At least they're stepping up now. He was able to get them to join in. And the importance of this, of course, is under normal conditions, roughly 100 ships, including about 50 oil tankers, pass through the Strait of Hormuz each day. That's according to Lloyd's List Intelligence, which tracks maritime data. And that flow, as of now, has slowed to essentially a trickle amid the blockade. So, yeah. They initially did very little to offer support, but now they've decided to join in. Which is actually, again, which is good. And that is a good thing. International support is a good thing. And that's what needs to happen. All right. Well, do you remember when the State of the Union address hit? Yeah, the State of the Union. And Trump set a couple of traps, and the dumbass Democrats stepped right into it. They sure were not. I don't know if I mean, come on. It was an obvious trap. I don't know why they didn't just avoid it, but no, it was an obvious trap, and they stepped into it for whatever reason. But anyway, I'll get to that in just a second. But first, let's talk about Rumble Wallet. Yeah, let's talk about Rumble Wallet. Here's a little inside scoop that many creators are talking about behind the scenes. It's actually one of the reasons why I'm using Rumble. Yeah. They made a way to super chat creators and we get paid immediately without any fees. Now, YouTube and Twitch, of course, take up to 50% of the fees when you tip creators, but this method takes zero. That's right. Rumble, the platform, takes zero fees. I keep nearly 100% of what you send me. Okay, now you can super chat with Bitcoin, Tether, Tether USD, or even Tether Gold stable coins. Now, the tip's going to show up directly within the Rumble chat, which, of course, you guys know. Whenever I see the super chats, I always read them. All you need to do is download the Rumble wallet on the App Store or Google Play and send the tips to your favorite creators. You can go to wallet.rumble.com, or you can download the app directly from the two different app stores. Seriously, what an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and help, of course, creators like myself. And this is a shout out, of course, to Rumble for making this disruptive technology available to everyone. So go to wallet.rumble.com. That's wallet.rumble.com, or download the app directly. And you can start tipping all of your favorite creators, including myself. Start tipping all of your favorite creators across the Rumble platform in terms of the super chats. So take a look at wallet.rumble.com and help support creators like myself without allowing others to sort of take their tip off the top, or take their part off the top. Once again, go to wallet.rumble.com. That's WALLET.rumble.com. And you'll be able to tip your favorite creators directly. All right. Well, do you remember in the State of the Union, the Democrats got caught by a trap? The trap, of course, being the fact that, they didn't stand when Trump said, hey, stand if you agree the first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens and not illegal aliens. Remember that? Well, guess what? Thankfully, the Republican National Congressional Committee is turning that into an advertisement. Let's take a look at what this advertisement looks like.
Democrats had a chance to stand up for Americans.
President Trump asked Congress, stand up if you believe the government's priority should be protecting Americans over illegal immigrants.
American citizens, American taxpayers, American children.
All the Republicans stood up and clapped.
Democrats wouldn't stand up.
Not only did Democrats stay seated, they made a statement. Spineless, shameless, completely out of touch. If they won't stand up for America, they have no business leading it.
Well. That's perfect. I think that's perfect right there. And I think it works out great for that. So, yeah. And that's going to run, reportedly, that's going to run in ahead of the midterms. Reportedly, that's going to run ahead of the midterms, and it's going to target House Democrats in 28 districts, including the 4 open seats that are in Maine, New Hampshire, New Jersey, and Texas. The vulnerable Democrats, in across like Adam Gray, Derek Tran, Dave Min, Darren Soto, Jared Moskowitz, Frank Mervyn, Kristen McDonald Rivet, and a whole host of others. Eugene Vindman, he's one I would love to see go away. And Marie Gluesenkamp Perez here in my home state of Washington. Yeah, I would love to see all of them go away. Every single one. So my guess is that this is going to be, quite a few of them. But the fact of the matter is the Democrats sort of put that in front of themselves. Okay, they put that in front of themselves. They're the ones that did that. You know, speaking of own goals, anybody know about Jamie Raskin? I mean, Jamie Raskin, let's just face it, he's one of the more stupid representatives. He acts like he's all knowledgeable and everything else, but yeah, he is kind of stupid. And he said something today, which was sort of interesting in regards to things like, illegal aliens and quote unquote undocumented immigrants. Yeah, let's just check out what he says here.
Tom Paine, who was an undocumented immigrant who came to this land in 1774, 2 years before the Revolution. Also in the 18th century, Thomas Jefferson, who was a descendant of a long line of undocumented immigrants, both on his mother's side and his father's side to the country.
The ranking member said, I think his opening sentence was, he said Thomas Paine was an illegal immigrant. My understanding was Mr. Paine was born in the UK, came to America, then a British colony in 1774. So I was just struggling to figure out how he was.
Oh, I didn't say he was an illegal immigrant. I said he was an undocumented immigrant, just like Thomas Jefferson's family was. Most of our ancestors did not arrive here with documents.
Is Thomas Paine an undocumented immigrant or a founding father, Mr. Rogers?
He's a founding father, but he's not an undocumented immigrant.
Yeah, Mr. O'Brien?
He was a citizen of the UK who went to another territory of the UK, so it was like moving from Massachusetts to New Hampshire.
Yeah.
You know, I don't understand it. How do these people who work in government, and not know basic history? I mean, I just, even Raskin says, well, he came here in 1774. I seem to recall there is, and we're celebrating 250 years of the anniversary of this country. And if we're celebrating 250 years, I mean, this is pretty simple math. 250 years backs us to where? Oh, yeah. 1776. So this country wasn't even created until after Thomas Paine, Thomas Jefferson. Oh, wait. Jefferson sounds really familiar to me. What did he do? What was his big thing that he did? Oh, yeah. He was the author of the Declaration of Independence that declared the independence from where? England. Folks, if you vote for these people, I'm telling you, you're just as stupid as they are. I'm sorry. You're just as stupid. I can't even imagine being that damn dumb. Oh, yeah. He came here in 1774. America wasn't even a country. It was a land. It was colonies. It wasn't, I mean, oh, I could just sit here and I would look at him and be like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. Now, here's the thing. See, the thing about it is these Democrats, they think they're all hot shit. I mean, this is basically what they call the stupid smart person, right? And honestly, this is what I think is I can't remember. Yuri Desmanoff said, you know, the stupid smart person is the most intelligent. Or the most useful, I should say, the stupid smart person. And anyway, wow. Anyway, Well, it's not just them. Here's another Dem senator. Now, this one I'm going to admit I have not listened to directly. It kind of ran out, but it's a Mark Kelly. It's a Mark Kelly clip. So I can just imagine, because Mark Kelly is one of those idiots. Yeah, he definitely is one of those idiots. But anyway, it's pretty bad when you get fact check live time on CNN. Okay, and that's what's happening here. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
Let me just say two things up front here. 2017, they were enriching uranium at around 3.5%, well below what they are now. They're at 60%. You know why they got to 60%? Because Donald Trump tore up the Iran deal, the JCPOA, which kept their enrichment very low. So he set the conditions.
The Obama administration did open the financial floodgates.
That is true, and I think that was that
a mistake?
Well, if the goal is to keep the uranium enrichment at a level to support civilian use, that was accomplished. It was below 5%, and Donald Trump blew that up, and it's at around 60%. I think that's pretty public now. It's about where it is. They would need to enrich it higher to get there.
But was it a mistake for the Obama administration to allow more money to flow to the Iran?
Well, I think you can criticize a deal, right? And them should have been more restrictions on them building ballistic missiles. I think that might be valid criticism. But the reason we're here today with them closer to building a nuclear weapon was because of what happened in 2018, and now how close are they going to be? And here's the big question: does he now race to get a nuclear weapon? And for us,
doesn't that argue for maybe putting boots on the ground?
Well, how many? And this is what we're trying to figure out today.
Okay, Mark, Senator Kelly, dumbass. Yes, they were already on the way to making a nuclear bomb. They're the ones, Iran, when Trump first started talking to them again and told them, look, you're not going to get a nuclear weapon. They're the ones that basically told us, hey, by the way, we have so many kilograms of uranium that's been enriched to 60%. Do you know there was a guy, he was a nuclear physicist, and he basically said, do you realize the difference between 5%, 10%, whatever it was that Mark Kelly was talking about, the difference between that and enriching it to 60% is roughly about 3 weeks. And that going from 60% to 90% or higher is roughly about 1 week. So Mark Kelly saying that Trump tore up the document, they were already on their way to doing it. They couldn't do it because of the money aspect. They were having money problems because of the embargoes, because of the stipulations, the things. They weren't even allowing the IAEA people to go in and take a look at some of these places, which is why Trump bombed them under Operation Midnight Hammer. See, this guy is just sitting here. He's trying to justify things. He's trying to put the blame on Trump. But the fact of the matter is that Trump stopped them when everybody else before Trump was sitting there and basically begging Iran, hey, just don't do that. Just don't. I mean, we appreciate it, but just don't. Please don't. Please don't do this. So, yeah. Anyway. Well, I just got to tell you, to listen to these idiots sit here and try and explain what was actually going on in Iran and everything else is just ridiculous. And he got fact-checked. He just did. He got fact-checked on air, because I seem to recall Obama handing him pallet loads of cash, and then Biden doing the exact same thing. Biden, handing over pallet loads of cash. Well, it's not just on foreign policy that these idiots really deal with, okay? It's not just on foreign policy. Because you'll seem to recall that a lot of these states, these governors in these states and these legislatures in these states like New York and California, that they were sitting there and going, all right, you know what we're going to do in order to make up our shortfalls? We're just going to tax the rich. You've heard that. AOC wore a dress with it. A very expensive dress that she was actually investigated for by the election commission or some commission or whatever. I think it's House Ethics Committee or something like that. But anyway, tax the rich. You listen to Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders talks about how they're going to make all these kinds of money and everything else off tax the rich. And what is a sensible person? A person with just a half of a brain, with a few cells to kind of rub together. What does a sensible person say? Well, the first thing that you say is, well, wait a minute. If you're going to go and start taxing the rich, where do you think the rich are going to go? Well, the rich are going to go away. We told them this. We mentioned it. Well, guess what? New York. Yep. Governor Kathy Hochul. This in the Daily Wire. Apparently, New York Governor Kathy Hochul went on some sort of a fireside chat this week. And during that time, she basically, she kind of begged for them to come back. She was sitting she also was sitting down with Nick Reisman at the Politico New York Agenda Summit. And, let's just say, her response or her question responses, whatever, is kind of telling.
And being conscious of the facts that I need people who are high net worth to support the generous social programs that we want to have in our state. Right? Now, there are some patriotic millionaires who stepped up. Okay, cut me the checks. I mean, just if you want to be supportive, but maybe the first step should be go down to Palm Beach and see who you can bring back home, because our tax base has been eroded. So I philosophically don't have a problem. It is like I have to look at the fact that we are in competition with other states who have less of a tax burden on their corporations and their individuals. And I would say remote work changed everything. There were people who could only work in an office in Manhattan or work in New York State, and they were captives to our state. They were going to stay. We saw that that's not the case. I mean, Wall Street, businesses looking at Texas, they're not going there because they have a nicer governor. I know that for sure. But they're going there because of the tax rate. We have to be smart about this. But we can fund what we want to fund with what we already are taking in.
Did you hear what she just said? She said, I've got to get more taxes in order to fund the social programs that I am looking to do. Really? Really? And by the way, regardless of her moment of clarity on the stage there, her solution isn't going to be to cut spending and scale back on the generous programs that, of course, caused the crisis, which, again, generous programs is the problem. See, Democrats have this belief as, fallacy, much of a fallacy as anything else. They have this belief that you can tax and spend your way into prosperity. No. And let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a patriotic millionaire? A patriotic millionaire who basically went and has, let's say, donated more taxes than what's required by the IRS? Like, I don't think I've ever heard of anybody, even Elon Musk, when Elon Musk went through the whole tax thing not too long ago, he basically was like, hey, I'm paying the biggest tax bill in history. But I guarantee you that big tax bill, he isn't like rushing to donate to the American government or any other government, by the way. Now, they might donate in order to gain tax breaks, and Trump admitted as much. Trump admitted as much on the stage, because when he was attempted to be attacked by Hillary Clinton about all of that, he basically said, hey, the smart people take all the tax breaks. The smart people lower their tax bill just like all of your donors do. Yeah. I don't see anybody running out there necessarily to go and like hand over money to just about anybody. Now, there are people out there who do donate to private corporations, private entities and things like that. But let's just, I still have yet, and I'd love to see if somebody would go and say, hey, you know what? I am spending over $1 billion in my tax bill, and I don't think it's enough. I think I need to put an extra $1 billion in there, you know, just for the heck of it. Just to go ahead and do that. So, yeah. Well, guess what? It's not just New York City and Governor Hochul that's having the problem. Oh, yeah. What's that thing? Oh, tax the rich. And what's another mantra of the left? Well, another mantra of the left is, hey, we need to raise the minimum wage. Yes, that's another mantra of the left. And what's kind of interesting is that whenever the minimum wage is raised, all of a sudden, you see a couple of things happen. And I've pointed it out on this program. Generally speaking, when you raise minimum wages, you tend to see two things. One, the cost of living increases, because prices go up at the same, relatively the same rate. And two, you start to see people drop jobs because the jobs start getting taken out because of the raise in the minimum wage and the less resources that it takes to keep those people running. Well, that's pretty much exactly what happened. So in 2023, legislation signed by Gavin Newsom, of course, raised the state's minimum wage for fast food workers to $20 an hour, with the exception of Panera Bread. I just, because Newsom's buddies with the owner, or with the owner. Well, what ended up happening is businesses started laying off employees, cutting hours, and shuttering businesses altogether. They started leaving the state. Well, guess what? Los Angeles decided, hey, you know what? We're not only going to do that, we're going to double it down. That's right. That's the new term for them. They don't learn from their mistakes. They double down on what they do, because California Democrats in Los Angeles went ahead and passed a law jacking up the minimum wage for hotel workers. The law that was passed last year incrementally increases the wages to $30 by 2028. Now, in July of last year, pay went up to $22.50 an hour. Well, guess what? According to the union, the hotel union, which, by the way, the hotel union celebrated the fact that that happened, all right? Celebrated it. Well, 600 workers are without jobs. Yeah. 650 hotel workers in LA lost their jobs. And not because of the economy, not because of COVID, but because Karen Bass signed that minimum wage law. And the union threw a party when she signed it. They called it a historic. They called it a victory for working families, but now you have 650 people who are out of a job. Yeah. And they haven't even hit $25 yet. So, yeah. Anyway, there was a study that came out, a survey, found that many hotels had already raised room rates and ancillary service prices to offset the higher labor costs. Remember that? Yes. Whenever you increase your labor or increase your actual cost, you increase prices. Researchers noted that while some price increases reflect the broader inflationary trends, the wage hike itself is a significant contributing factor, especially at budget and mid-price properties. Travel industry analysts said that the higher hotel prices could ultimately affect tourism demand, particularly among cost-sensitive visitors. Now, to manage these rising payroll costs, some hotels are accelerating investments in automation and technology. Oh, what? Now they are using things like mobile check-in kiosks, self-service food and beverage options, digital concierge services. While all of these changes are aimed at improving efficiencies, critics argue they may be reducing employment opportunities for entry-level workers. Well, folks, literally, that's exactly what is going to happen. Because what a lot of people don't understand is you're sitting here and you're raising the minimum wage. Well, when you raise the minimum wage to any one given worker, and keep in mind this is multiplied across your entire workforce, whenever you raise the minimum wage on one individual worker, you're also raising their overall salary. That overall salary, which includes all of their healthcare benefits and family leave benefits and all of this other stuff, okay, now it becomes more attractive to utilize a machine to do the same function that a person did at a much reduced rate. I mean, yes, the initial outlay for the machine is going to be cost prohibitive. It's a initial capital expenditure. But what you gain in the operational expenditures, meaning the year-over-year operation of that machine, can offset all of the people and all of their benefits and all of the, expenses that come along with keeping a high payroll. Now, I've told you on this program, I'm fairly certain, and even if I haven't, I've told other people, but payroll is the most liquid asset that a company has. Seriously. Because today I could have 1,000 workers and tomorrow I could fire 500 of them, and now all of a sudden I have an instant influx of 500 workers, the equivalent of 500 workers pay in cash. Not only that, but also, as you point out with 3 Chevy says, hey, machines don't take sick days or take days off for vacations or anything like that. And he's right. And there you go. See, this is part of the problem. Is that the idea of minimum wage, which, by the way, Thomas Sowell said the minimum wage is actually 0. And Thomas Sowell, great guy, great economist guy. But anyway, Thomas Sowell basically said, hey, you raise the minimum wage, and Milton Friedman did this too. It's an artificial increase. And it also, by the way, too, when you raise the minimum wage, you're also increasing inflationary factors as well. Maybe not the inflationary factor that the government itself has on the dollar, but you got to remember it takes more dollars to pay somebody for an hour's worth of work. And so that causes an inflationary type stressor on the money supply as well. Well, as Governor Hochul talked about, many people are leaving high tax states for low tax states. She mentioned places like New York going to Florida, New Yorkers going to Florida, Californians going to Texas or Idaho or some of those other things. In fact, I wish I had the map. I mistakenly maneuvered away from it and couldn't remember where I had seen it. But there was a map that indicated across the United States how many, in terms of population, how many states are getting an influx and how many states are losing and by how much. And well, what ended up happening is places like Idaho, low tax state, Utah, low tax state, Texas, low tax state, Florida, low tax state, all of these states that are red states that have low taxes, well, they got an influx of people. And it was amazing to see the influx of people that went into Idaho, for an example. You got to figure between Idaho, you had California, Oregon, and Washington all moving over into Idaho. Well, Gavin Newsom, while he eyes a run at the presidency, which I think is a bunch of crap, but he went on to he was in a conference, I don't know what they call the SXSW, whatever that is, conference on Sunday in Austin, Texas. And he was there and he goes, hey, you know what? We have the most progressive tax rates in America. And then he talks about, because he was asked about income inequality, and he goes, well, Texas taxes poor folks more than we tax our richest. Question for you is, who has the higher tax state, California or Texas? Well, there's only one problem here, buddy. And he tries to claim that Texas and Florida tax higher than California. The Washington Examiner noted that the only reason that California's bottom 20% of income earners don't pay a higher percentage of their income in taxes versus Texas's bottom 20% is because the California actually uses its tax code as a bit of a welfare system. So while Texas's bottom 20% pay nothing in income taxes, California's bottom 20% receive 2% of their income from the state in a form of refundable tax credits. Now, without those payments, California's bottom 20% actually pays more. So it's those kinds of things that kind of shift things around. Again, they're trying to manipulate the data to demonstrate something that actually doesn't exist. And Real Clear Politics President Tom Bevan pointed out that, actually California is number 4 in the nation when it comes to taxes. And here's the ranking. Hawaii, total tax burden, 13.92%. New York, total tax burden, 13.56%. Vermont, 11.53%. California at 11%. Maine is at 10.64%. And just so you understand, California has a property tax burden of 2.78%, which is 21st. Has a individual income tax burden of 4.87%, which is 2%. And, or number 2 in the nation. And the total sales and excise tax burden that is also on there is 3.35%, which is ranked at 29. So, yeah. Telling you, these people, all they do is lie through their teeth, and they anticipate that the people are going to be too stupid for them to understand and for them to actually research and figure this out. The Democrats count on people being stupid. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel And hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit those thumbs up, thumbs downs, or in the case of 3 Chevy, the thumbs sideways across all of my platforms, whether it's X, Facebook, YouTube, and of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.